What would you do if you knew the world was ending tomorrow? You see movies, about the end of the world and people are running around freaking out, maybe committing violence, just living lives of sin. What would you do as a believer in Jesus if you knew the world was ending soon? That's what today's Dining Room Devo is all about. We're looking at 1 Peter 4, verse 7. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be clear-minded and self-controlled so that you can pray. The first part of that verse seems pretty blunt, doesn't it? The end of all things is near. And it may seem blunt, but it really is not out of place with what Peter has already said in chapter 4. He's reminded us that the rest of our earthly life is pretty short, about how we've made a decision that we are done with sin. And he's reminded us that we, along with all people, are going to answer to God for the decisions that we make in life. But Peter's point here is well taken. The end is near. After all, Jesus said in Revelation 22, some of the final words of written scripture, I am coming soon. At this point, the skeptic might say, yeah, right. You Christians, you've been saying that for 2,000 years that the end is coming soon. But Peter addresses this kind of attitude in his next letter, 2 Peter 3:4, which says, they, that is unbelievers, skeptics, they will say, where is this coming he promised? Ever since our fathers died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation, right? Before Christ returns, there's going to be an attitude of, yeah, right, the end is coming, whatever, right? That's what the world is going to think. But the end is near, either because our time here on earth is short or because, as Jesus promised, he's going to return one day. The day approaches, maybe not quickly by our clock, but it is quickly by God's. And nearly every New Testament writer speaks of the nearness of the hour. Jesus said that he would return when least expected. And so we, as believers, must be ready. I love that moment right before a football game starts. There's a moment of anticipation. You watch the players and coaches, they're making last-minute preparations, talking about strategy, they're stretching, they're maybe going over their plays in their mind. There's a look of seriousness and determination. It's a time to focus on the task at hand. And Peter's words here in verse 7 are a call to focus. And he says that word. He says, the end of all things is near. Then he uses that word that we've talked about a lot in these videos. Therefore. Therefore, he says, be clear-minded. The Greek for clear-minded is often interpreted as sober-minded. He says, be clear-minded and self-controlled. And the Greek word for that, for self-controlled, also means be aware. Be sober-minded and aware. What does that mean to us? Well, these words mean that the Christian shouldn't respond to the approaching end by going off the deep end and frenetically making preparations. You may have seen that show Doomsday Preppers, where have these people on the show that they spend a ton of money getting food and supplies and water together, preparing for some particular scenario that's probably never going to happen, like maybe an electromagnetic pulse that wipes out all electronics, or a nuclear war, maybe some kind of bubonic plague. They spend all this time and energy and money getting ready for this end that's going to come. And in the process, they miss out on living life. Peter's saying, don't be like that. Live wisely. Use some moderation. Be self-controlled. Be sober-minded. It also means don't be given to drunkenness. Don't live in sin like your neighbors that ridicule you for not joining with them in sin. Don't become like them. But don't live to excess or to panic either. But I think it also means, and this is important for us to understand in the church, it also means not to be so caught up in speculation about how end times scenarios are going to happen that we lose focus on what's important. Our church libraries are filled with books written decades ago that tell in detail how the end is going to come about in light of world events that were current when the books were written. But now those books are completely irrelevant. But people spend a lot of time speculating. I think Peter's saying, don't get so caught up in speculations about the fulfillment of prophecy that it takes your focus on what God has really called us to do. That is to live in communion with God, to love others, and to share his message with others. He says, be clear-minded and self-controlled. Why? So that you can pray. What is our focus? What should it be? It should be on prayer. Yes, the end is coming soon, but our focus should be our connection with God. However things happen at the end, we can trust that God's going to provide for us. So make him your priority. Pray for the lost. Pray for your fellow Christians. Pray for your own witness in these times. Live in the Spirit. Look, running around scared or getting caught up in prophetic speculation is the opposite of faith. Martin Luther once said, if I knew Christ was coming back tomorrow, I would still plant a tree today. Christ is coming soon, but we're not called to worry about tomorrow. Live in communion with God. Focus on today's work. It's fine to make sensible preparations for the future, but don't let it distract you from God's call to walk with him today. So, what would you do if you knew Christ was returning tomorrow? Look, I think if we do this right, that knowledge wouldn't change our behavior very much, because if we're doing this right, we're ready for his return at any time. Peter says, be self-controlled, be alert, and be in prayer. It's God's will, and it's our calling. Thanks for watching our video today. Feel free to leave a comment, share it with somebody who needs to see it. Visit our website at newparisfirst.com. God bless you. We'll see you next time on Dining Room Devos.